Section 1.4, this is your vocabulary for this section. There's not as many as there has been here in the past, but there's a good handful. And in Section 1.4, we start talking about angles. And angles are something that you're going to use quite a bit throughout the year. Here's the actual definition. It says here, an angle is formed by two rays with the same endpoint. The rays are the sides of the angle, and the common endpoint is what we call the vertex of the angle. Okay, so there's a lot we're going to talk about here. Now, on your vocabulary packet, I believe it has angle, and then it has vertex and sides all separate, and we're going to put this all together in one. Okay, so as you can see from this picture, this is an angle. Okay, it says here, this angle could be named angle A, angle BAC, or angle CAB. I'll come back to how to name it here in a second, but I want you to notice how this angle was created. If I start out with just one point, okay, and I'll name this point A. And then I start out with another point, and I say this is point B up here. And I create this ray, AB. There's ray AB, okay? And then I create this third point down here, and it's called C, and I create ray AC. And notice, when you take two rays from one point, from the same endpoint, okay, and it's not a straight line in this case, you create what we call an angle, okay? So the sides are made up of rays. In this case, the sides are ray AB and ray AC. Notice they start at the same endpoint, but they go to different letters. Okay, those are the sides. The vertex is where the angle comes to a sharp point. So this is the vertex. All right, the vertex is letter A. Okay, so now every time you name an angle, you can name it essentially any angle three different ways. You can name it with just the vertex, which is what they've done right here. The vertex here is A, so we can name it angle A. The trouble with naming it one letter is if there's multiple angles. Now right now we have just one angle here in this picture. But when you name it when you make it multiple angles, for example, you start to see this, something like this, with multiple angles, you cannot name this with one letter. It has to be three, okay? When you name it with three letters, as you can see here with BAC, they go from B to A to C. Notice the vertex is always in the middle. So when you name an angle, the vertex has to be in the middle, okay? The other way they name this is CAB, angle CAB. They go from C to A to B, but you'll notice A is in the middle. And then you have the angle symbol. This is just, it looks like a less than symbol, or, I guess you could call it, looks like a less than symbol. But that's how you name an angle. Okay, again, it's formed by two rays with the same endpoint. All right, so measure of an angle. The measure of an angle. It says here, consider ray OD and a point C on one side of ray OD. Okay, so here's ray OD right here, and then you have C on one side of OD. Okay, every ray of the form ray OC can be paired with one to one with a real number from 0 to 180 degrees. As you notice this picture, you see the protractor is here. You've seen this design before. Okay, so a protractor goes from 0 all the way up to 180 if I go all the way across, or I can go the other way, 0 all the way up to 180 degrees. In other words, it's a half a circle. The measure of angle COD. So it says here, to find the measure of angle COD, it's the absolute value of the difference of the real numbers paired with ray OC and ray OD. Now, that's a lot of stuff there, okay? So when I look, I'm going to zoom in here on this protractor. What we're going to do here is we're going to find, okay, at what point is C, what degree measure? Well, you have a couple of them. If you look on the outside of the protractor, you would say it's 45 degrees, right? Okay. And then if you continue to go on the outside of the protractor, if you follow it along, point D is at 150 degrees. Okay. Or you can go on the other side. So you could say D is 30 degrees And in this case, C is at 135 degrees. Okay, what they're saying is, it's just like finding the distance on a segment. How long is a segment? You're going to take the absolute value. So let's take the first values, the blue ones. We're going to take 45 minus 150 and take the absolute value of that. Okay, well, 45 minus 150 is negative 105. But because we have the absolute value there, it makes it 105. Which means that in this case, angle COD right here is 105 degrees. That's what they mean by all that stuff. Okay, so to find the angle measure, the measure of an angle, we simply subtract the two values, take the absolute value. Or I could do the black numbers. If I take 135 and I subtract 30 and take the absolute value. Well, 135 minus 30 is 105. The absolute value of 105 is 105. Okay, so that's how you would calculate the measure of an angle. Okay, an acute angle, you've seen this before. An acute angle is an angle whose measure is between 0 and 90 degrees. This part right here is really important. Acutes between 0 and 90. Okay, acute angles between 0 and 90 degrees. Next, we're going to look at the right angle. Okay, so the right angle. Right angle is an angle whose measure is exactly 90 degrees. Okay, so a right angle is 90 degrees. You'll notice usually it ends up being just like a square corner, 90 degrees. You'll see a lot of times this little square box is in the corner. That means that it's a right angle, okay, the little box. An obtuse angle. An obtuse angle is an angle whose measure is between 90 and 180. Okay, so an obtuse angle is any number between 90 and 180 degrees. And then you have the fourth kind of angle, which is the straight angle. A straight angle is an angle whose measure is exactly 180 degrees. Or the reason they call it a straight angle is because it's a straight line. So it's 180 degrees all the way across. That's 180 degrees right there. Okay, from point B to point A all the way around. Congruent angles. Okay, congruent angles. Congruent angles are angles that have the same measure. So in this picture right here, you see two angles. You see angle J and you see angle K. All right. We know that angle J, the measure of angle J, is equal to the measure of angle K. So we can say angle J and angle K are congruent because we know they have the same measure. Okay, congruent angles. Okay, so this concludes your 1-4 vocabulary. Now you can take a look at the next video to work on your practice problems. Make sure that you have these written down in your vocabulary packet and that you've taken care of that.